This is dating coach and book author Alan Roger Currie, author of the book Mode 1. And you are now watching and listening to Reese and Diggy Jones on the Rawcast, the Carbon Ops Rawcast. Soak up that knowledge. And if anybody say something stupid to you, this is what you do. You say, insert dog face here.
You are experiencing the CO2 Carbon Ops Broadcast. Let's begin.
That's right. And you ain't said it no better, lady. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everybody. You are now rocking with the team, with the greatest, with the crew. This is the CO2 Carbon Ops Broadcast, and I am your boy, Max Diggy Jones.
And your dude, the merciless Reese L. Black.
Good evening, Mr. Black.
Yes, sir. Man, I'm going to just tell y'all right away, real quick, this is episode 3 of the Winners Lounge. For those of you who don't know, Winners Lounge is a showcase that we do to highlight those who are doing great things in culture, Black culture, and just society in general. And I'm just going to tell y'all right now that y'all ain't ready for this episode. I'm going to tell you right away. Anybody out there watching this episode right now, just hold back for a second because y'all ain't ready. I need y'all to get focused. Ladies out there, I need y'all to go get some wine. Fellas, if you in your PJs, I need you to go do some push-ups or something. But get ready because this is a totally different episode. I just want to let y'all know, man, we've been doing real good things so far with this series. This is episode 3. So, if I could equate episode 3 to a movie, this would be Return of the Jedi, damn it. Because we have got the Grand Jedi Master in the building today. I'm not even going to be the one to introduce him. I'm going to let that privilege be to my man, Mr. Black. But what I will do is start the intro music. So get ready. This is the Winners Lounge.
You are cordially invited to attend the Winners Lounge with special guest Alan Roger Currie, aka ARC. Author of several notable books, including today's featured material, No Free Attention. Let's resume the Rawcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Winners Lounge. Our special guest today hails out of Gary, Indiana, by way of Chicago. This man needs no introduction, but damn it, I'm gonna go ahead and give one any damn way. This man is a coach, mentor. This man is an author of the Beta Male Revolution, author of Ooh, Say It Again, my favorite damn book out of the series, author of No Free Attention, Ooh, The Possibility of Sex, and author of the staple in the Black manosphere of literature, Mode 1.
Hell yeah.
Raise your motherfucking glasses right now, for
Fact.
the one, the only, the Godfather, the king of verbal seduction.
Damn, go in.
The Alan Roger Currie. Welcome to Winners Lounge.
Hey.
Wow. I don't know what to say after that introduction. I can just go ahead and retire now.
Man, glad to have
Thank you so much.
How you been today, man? Are you ready to go in today? Because we getting into that book right away.
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready to hit the ground running.
All right.
Go.
Reese, why don't you take it from here?
Oh man, where the f do I start? All right. No free attention. Possibility of sex. Now, I read the book, and what was interesting about the beginning of that book, and let me know, please stop me if I'm going way too deep in the book to the point where you actually want supporters to go out and grab the books, because I don't want to give any gems that shouldn't be given unless you want them to get it. But this was kind of a vantage point, on the men's side, because the first book pretty much detailed of course, going in on the manipulative time waster. Now, this one here, you actually broke down the different types of man. You actually went more into detail into like the mode 3 and the mode 4 area. Yep. So what actually inspired you to just say, you know what? This needs to be a little bit more broken down on those mode 3, mode 4 men. Please elaborate.
Well, it's funny, when I first decided to rewrite The Possibility of Sex, well, the reason why I even decided, number one, a lot of book authors do tend to have updated revisions of their books, of their various books. So that's not uncommon, first of all. But of my 4 major books, 3 of my 4 major books were available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. But The Possibility of Sex was only available in ebook and audiobook. It was never available in paperback.
Right.
So I would say that was the starting point. Was I had a lot of guys say, "Hey, Alan, I would love to have a paperback version of The Possibility of Sex." And over the years, because I came out with that in 2012, so I had been hearing that for the last 8 years or so. And so finally, in 2020, I made the decision to go ahead and publish a paperback version of The Possibility of Sex. But 2 things happened. One, as I began rewriting it for print, I said, I want to add this. Mm-hmm. And I want to tweak this. And I want to slightly modify and edit this. And I kept doing that so much repeatedly that the next thing you know, if anybody reads the new book, now I will say it's divided in 2 parts, just like the original Possibility. The original Possibility of Sex had 4 chapters in part 1 and 5 chapters in part 2. The rewrite has 5 chapters in part 1, so it's a new additional chapter, and also the same 5 chapters in part 2. A lot of the content in part 2 is very similar to its original. It's more, I would say part 2 of the book is more similar to the original, although it has some modifications and edits and revisions. Yep. But definitely part 1 is almost like totally different. Mm-hmm. It has some of the same themes, but it's almost totally different. And that's why a lot of guys who've read it so far have said, man, Alan, this is almost like a totally different book.
Almost book. It is a totally different book. It is.
As a matter of fact, I've had guys say that. They like, Alan, this ain't really a rewrite. This is a totally new, different book. And then the second thing, as most people, is real obvious, I changed the title. Yeah. Which rarely happens when authors... Now, I've known a lot of authors to modify the subtitle of their books when they rewrite them, do an updated revision. So that's not necessarily uncommon for the subtitle to change. But usually the title, the main title, stays the same. Yeah. I modified both. And if anybody follows me on YouTube, they know at least half the reason why. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not going to get into a long digression about this.
Yeah, we already know. We know.
But I have a lot of my material copied by different people. Yeah. People will take terminology of mine, concepts of mine, signature phrases of mine, and just... Now, I don't mind when people repeat stuff and they give me credit. I have no problem with that. If somebody repeats something from my books and they say, shout out to Alan Roger Currie, then I'm fine. But when people repeat stuff and don't give me credit, that irritates me. Fact. And probably more than any other, definitely under the category of signature phrases, I would say arguably the number one signature phrase of mine that has had, that I've seen copied by a number of content creators on YouTube is no free attention. Mm-hmm. So, and that first came to light in the original Possibility of Sex. I had mentioned it on some blogs and message boards and discussion forums even before I came on Possibility of Sex. But as far as a copyrighted material, Possibility of Sex was the first time I mentioned no free attention. And so anyway, I decided, because I had so many people copying, I said, I'm going to change the title from The Possibility of Sex and to No Free Attention. And now I have The Possibility of Sex in the subtitle of the book. And for those that might say, well, in simple terms, what does that mean? No free attention means basically I discourage men from giving women free and unlimited access to their non-sexual time, attention, and companionship unless one of these three things is going on. If you've already had sex with a woman at least once or twice, I would say it's okay to give her, some degree of access to your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. If you haven't had, number two, if you haven't had sex with her yet, but you're like 99% sure you're on the verge of having sex with that woman, I would say it's okay to go ahead and give her, a decent degree of access to your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. Or third, you've already decided that you just want this woman to be a strictly platonic friend or a business/professional colleague type deal. That's the third situation where I would say it's okay. But if you're interacting with a woman that you either want to be your next long-term girlfriend, future wife, or most prominently, your next casual sex lover, you don't need to be doing stuff like hanging out with her 8 to 10 hours a week, every week. And that woman ain't giving you any indication that y'all gonna be exchanging orgasms soon.
Facts.
Or, whining and dining her, like taking her out to 4-star, 5-star restaurants 2 to 3 times a week, every week. And that woman, y'all not that any closer to being intimate with each other.
What's
That's what I call being given free attention.
Because he had a question regarding like the origin.
Because this is part of the reason why we, of course, wanted you on the show is to talk about that. You talked about the no free attention, and how a lot of people don't really give you that credit. And I'm seeing, that a lot of these young cats that are coming into the game, maybe part of it is due to the fact that they are following somebody who was following somebody who was following you. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I'm understanding is, that's why we want to give you the credit that's due is people need to understand where all this originates from. Do your research on where this started so that you can have a better understanding of the full aspects of the game. Because there's a lot of people, it seems like, on YouTube that are YouTube gamers, you know what I mean? And they've got, cute quotes, but they're not really, experts on the topic. And you are expert on this topic. So that's why we wanted to give you that chance to, showcase that on the show. Real quick, though, I wanted to talk about your origin. You talked about a couple of things in the book. You talked about the character Jack from the movie. What is the name of the movie? Talk Dirty to Me. Yeah,
you got the poster on right there in the back.
And for those who read Mode 1 and all that stuff, you may be familiar with it. But in this book, you talk about how this was one of the motivations for you to develop that mentality. And what I was wondering, because obviously you got people out there who maybe don't really delve into it, might see that as a chauvinistic character or whatever, misogynistic character, but you saw something different. And I'm wondering, what was it that sparked that in you to, develop this philosophy that is actually something that I think a lot of kids can learn from?
Well, yeah, great question. That you could say that definitely was my starting point. I would say there was probably at least 2 or 3 contributing factors that contributed to me developing my Mode 1 approach, but none more prominent than the movie Talk Dirty to Me. That was what happened. Was I saw that movie the summer after I graduated from high school. I was on my way to college at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, and that July, before I started college, a friend of my family's, a guy named Marlon, he his parents were real tight with my parents. And sometimes when we would go over his place, my parents and his parents would take off and, you know, do whatever. And they would leave us at the house, particularly once we got older. And so this was one of those moments that you would have to know my friend Marlon. Marlon was an interesting guy when it came to porn, is that honestly, most guys who watch porn, let's keep it real, they watch it to get aroused.
Yeah. They roll the dice to it.
Self-pleasure.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas Marlon, he liked to watch, he had just a unique sense of humor, so he would find humor in stuff that wasn't necessarily funny. Like, for example, he could watch a drama, a movie that's categorized as a drama, and find moments in that movie that he thought was just hilarious. And so he would put in porno movies, not to, you know, get aroused by them, but to point out something that he thought was funny. So he put in one porn movie and he'd get to a certain scene, he'd be like, look at this scene, man, this guy's gonna do this and that and this and that, man, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
So sometimes he would fast forward, and this is around the time when VHS, young people, they don't probably, some of them probably don't remember VHS. This is when VHS first had really become popular. This was 1981, summer 1981. So VHS was only, you know, a couple years popular, you know, because before you couldn't really watch movies at home back in the 60s and 70s. And so his father happened to have a VHS player. So he get, you know, that was a new way to watch porn. Just like nowadays, you know, guys could just get on the internet and watch internet porn all day. But yeah, back at this time, yeah, the number one way to watch porn was on VHS. So he had like a collection of porn tapes. I'd say about at least 10 tapes. And he was just popping them in. And anyway, one happened to be Talk Dirty to Me. And the opening scene, if anybody's seen the movie, there's this opening scene where Jack, who's the main character, he's this prolific womanizer and slacker. And his friend Lenny, who's, I want to say, a bit autistic, he twists his ankle. And so Jack takes him to the doctor, and it's this really good-looking, blonde, you know, well put together female physician. And skipping on Miss Lane's details, basically he starts verbally seducing her. And the first thing that caught my ear was how verbally bold and sexually explicit he was so quickly. Not only had I not seen that in another movie character, I mean, in real life, number one, I definitely hadn't seen in real life, but even in other movies, I hadn't seen another movie character be like that. So I was like, damn. You know, I started tripping. I was like, man. And my brother noticed it quickly. I got an older brother named Steven. He noticed that I was basically taking mental notes. And he's like, bruh, that would never work in real life. You get slapped, you get a
Yeah, that's like Pepe Le Pew, because Pepe Le Pew would be on it. He was chasing that cat.
Yeah, Pepe Le Pew was king. Yeah, so he starts, and so that was the first thing I would say is his verbal boldness and how sexually straightforward he was. But probably secondly, and probably even more importantly, second thing I would say, she starts having basically an adverse reaction to his verbal boldness and his sexual straightforwardness. And he was just so cool, calm, and collected. So that was the next thing I was taking mental note. I was like, man, because, you know, most guys, if they say something to a woman and a woman has some kind of negative adverse reaction, they'll get defensive, they'll get argumentative. But he was just like smirking at her, like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. So I was like, And then the biggest one was she like had this theatrical adverse reaction, but then because he stuck to his guns, didn't back down from anything he said, didn't apologize for anything he said, she broke and gave in to him. And for me, at that time, that was a huge light bulb on my head. Because I was like, so wait a minute. You're telling me that a lot of women will act like they're offended by what you say and act like they're turned off by what you say. Act like they find what you're saying, disgusting and crass and disrespectful. But really, that's all an act. That was eye-opening to me. And then, you guys have probably heard me as well as all my followers. I always punch the phrase of concept of sexual duplicity. You can say that's when I really first start examining sexual duplicity, because I was the type of guy, as probably most guys were. I thought anytime if I said something and a woman acted offended, I thought she was genuinely offended.
Yeah.
If I said, damn, you got some big titties, and a woman's like, oh my God, why would you say that?
Yeah.
I would think she was genuinely ticked off that I said something like that. Yeah. But after watching Talk Dirty to me, I was like, oh, so for a lot of women, this is just an act. Then that's when my mind got the ticket. And so again, though, my brother was like, bruh, no, he's essentially like, don't try this in real life, please. Now, fast forward 3 years later, after I had some experiences, one I chronicle in the book, and this is probably next to Watch It Talk Dirty to me, the second, I would say, most significant contributing factor was I had this conversation with these 3 women that were part of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority while I was in college. And they asked me, could they pick my brain? And I said, sure. And what it was, they were very frustrated over the idea of men lying to them and misleading and manipulating them to get them in bed. Basically, guys acting like they wanted to be their next long-term boyfriend when in actuality, they just wanted casual sex. Yeah. And they were venting with me, and they were basically asking me like, Alan, why do guys do that? Particularly some of your frat brothers, because I'm in a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. And they were like, why do a lot of guys on campus, and particularly guys in your fraternity, do that? I said, oh, that's simple. They, deep down, they want casual sex, but they scared of being rejected. They scared of receiving a harsh reaction. And then there's one of the 3 women, she said, well, why? She said, how do they know? We might want the same thing. She said, Alan, I'm going to clue you in if you don't know already. Us women, we have the same delineations that you men do. And I will say at the time, that was even somewhat mind-blowing for me. Because I had this assumption. Now, younger generation, they probably have always known that now. Yeah. Because of the way information has been spread. But, back in the early 80s, most guys assumed that all women wanted long-term relationships. Yeah. And that the only time they engaged in casual sex was when they were tricked into it or, something like that. Well,
that's because music back in the day was all about love and relationships. So you kind of corresponded with it in, reality. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. And but anyway, this woman broke down to me. She was basically like, just like you guys have women that you look at as girlfriend and future wife material, but then you have other women that you just like, okay, I want to fuck her for a few days, a few weeks, and then leave her alone. She was like, we have that same delineation. We got guys who we look at as boyfriend / future husband material, but we got other guys where we're like, okay, I'll let him fuck me for like the next month or 2, and then we'll go our separate ways. Yeah. And I was like, So next thing that happened, I went back to my frat house and I did kind of like an informal survey. And I asked all the guys, I said, hey man, if you meet a woman, you just want to fuck her casually, do you straight up tell her that? Or do you basically lie to her and bullshit? And probably 98% of guys was like, come on, Alan, man. You got to lie and bullshit with her, man. You can't just straight up just tell a woman you want casual sex, man. You either got to lie to her, bullshit her, or at minimum, you got to get her drunk and then, do what you do. Now, on a side note on that, as I point out in my video, see, now that's illegal. Yeah. Guys can't get away with that now. Like in the early 80s, you could get away with getting a woman sloppy drunk and just taking advantage of her. There was really no such thing as date rape in the early to mid 80s.
Right.
But starting around 89, 90, 91, that's when you start having the concept of date rape. And so now if you get a woman drunk and just take advantage of it, you're going to come up on some charges. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically how most guys engaged in casual sex was either they lied to them, emotionally manipulated them, or they got them drunk. or high, one of the two, if not both, and took advantage of them. And so I said that all that was bullshit. So I got challenged. Some of my frat brothers, they was like, okay, next party we have, we want to see you do this straightforward stuff, man. We're going to be laughing at your ass because you're going to be getting cursed out. You're going to be getting slapped.
They was hoping that was going to happen.
and what ended up happening, as they say, the rest is history. What ended up happening at that party, I was what I now call Mode 1. I didn't call it that at that time. That came later. But essentially, I was Mode 1 with women. And what would happen, what was kind of the patterns, almost similar to the movie Talk Dirty to Me with that doctor. A lot of women who I was Mode 1 with, for the first 2, 3, 4, even maybe 5 minutes, they would have an adverse reaction like, who you talking to like that? I ain't no hoe. I ain't no slut. What you think I am? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And similar to Jack, you can say I just emulated him. One, again, I learned from him was to stay cool, calm, and collected in the face of criticism. So I would just look at these women. While they going off on me, I'd just be like,
You'd be amazed on how many chicks are actually really entertained by that, too. The fact that they even asked you, what do you think I am? Instead of just leaving, that's already a dead giveaway that they down, man. I mean, come on. That's already a dead giveaway.
You pointed out one of the gems right there. I mean, and that's one of the things, honestly, in my coaching, I teach guys is to look out for what I call congruent versus incongruent behavior. Yeah, it's incongruent for a woman to be criticizing you and insulting you, but not ending the conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would pick up on that. And, but then, sure enough, when they saw that I wasn't freaking out on them freaking out, most of the women, they would just almost miraculously just kind of change. The first thing to do, I always would crack up, they would kind of look around. Like, once they were about to give in, they would kind of look around like, and I came to find out, see, women are worried about people passing judgment on them.
They're the women are the biggest slut shamers.
Thing with women. Women do not, plain and simply, if guys don't know watching this, don't know this already, and most of you probably do, but women do not like to be slut shamed. You know, men and women have our similarities and we have our differences. That's one of our biggest prominent differences is that, like, man, if a woman calls a man whore or a male slut, that don't affect us at all. We don't care.
Right.
We just don't care. But for women, that's huge. Mm-hmm. They don't like that, having the reputation and public image and social reputation of being an easy lay, a slut. Because how they're conditioned to believe, most women are conditioned to believe, particularly if they come from what I would call a middle class and upper middle class family. They believe that if they get any hint of a promiscuous reputation, that's going to hurt their chances of finding a husband.
Yeah.
And that's basically where the sexual duplicity comes in, is that, see, there's a lot of women who deep down, they want to be more uninhibited, more free-spirited, more open-minded. But then that good girl social programming voice says, nah, if you become free-spirited, you ain't gonna find a husband. And you basically gonna be a slut and a spinster for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And that's scary to women. That's scary to women, the thought of being a slut/spinster for the rest of their life. What they learn to do is most women will always, now that's saying there's probably a small percentage of women, as I said, who said again, that are what I would call genuine good girls. I call those in the book 5s because I rate women on my Madonna horror scale of 1 to 5.
You said Madonna horror scale.
Yeah, that's the Madonna horror scale.
Wow. I didn't even hear that.
So since I brought it up, I'll break that down real quick. In my book, who said again? Yeah, I divide all women from 1 to 5. A 5, that's a woman who's never, ever going to indulge in casual sex, ever. Because her social programming and cultural conditioning is just too strong.
Yeah.
So she's not, you got to either be her husband or her fiance for her to engage in sex with you. You got to have a ring on her finger, either engagement ring or wedding ring. 4 is a woman who highly prefers to only have sex within the context of a long-term, exclusive romantic relationship, husband, fiance, at minimum long-term boyfriend. But she will occasionally, if she runs across a master seducer type guy, she will occasionally indulge in casual sex. A 3 is a woman that's always going to publicly present herself as a 4, and in some cases a 5, but behind closed doors, she's engaged in a number of episodes of casual sex. I'd say she probably indulges semi-regularly. A 2 is a woman who also publicly is going to present herself as a 4, but privately, she's like a big-ass freak. And then a 1 is a woman who's just open about it, who's just openly said, hey, I'm a freak. I like the I don't care what names y'all call me. If y'all call me a slut,
Madonna, basically.
Yeah, Madonna. So, but yeah, so a lot of women have that duplicity. So anyway, these women, going back to the backstory, these women, again, would initially have an adverse reaction, but then they'd be like, you nasty. Here's my number. Let's talk. And so first thing I had my frat brothers who were watching at the party was like, they used to call me AC. They said, AC, come. What kind of Jedi mind trick you working, man? I'd be like, what? They say, man, we saw you talking to this woman. And first it was like she was cursing you the fuck out. But the next thing we know, she started smiling. She started writing down a number. In a couple cases, you even like briefly tongue kissed them. How'd you pull that shit out? And I told them, I said, I was just straightforward and didn't back down from anything I said. And they kept trying to make it more than they said that. Like, no, it got to be something more than that, man. It got to be something more than that, man. I ain't never seen no shit like that, dude. Next thing you know, I had a group of my frat brothers. They start calling me the legend, D.A. legend. They would tell other guys like, hey, man, AC, Alan, man, that dude, he got some magical way turning a no into a yes, man. Y'all need to talk to him. So different guys would come to me like, hey, man, I want you to teach me that Jedi mind trick. And the biggest, then here's the final piece of the puzzle. So first started talk dirty, then with the women from the AK sorority, then that party. Then my brother, again, I reference now, remember when I said I was watching Talk Dirty to him, he was like, bro, don't ever use this in real life. He transferred down to IU Bloomington from another campus. And my frat brothers were starting to come to him. He was like, so you Alan's brother, huh? Man, your brother, man. That dude, he legend, man. And my brother was basically like, what you talking about? And he's like, oh, man, you don't know about your younger brother? Man, Alan, dude, is that dude, man. I mean, he is like literally the most straightforward dude on campus, man, when it comes to letting women know he want to fuck, man. He don't mince words, man. He just gets right to it. So immediately my brother knew what had influenced me. He came to me, he's like, bro, are you doing that like John Leslie talk dirty to me type stuff down here? I was like, yeah, basically. He's like, and it's working? I was like, oh, I was basically like, understatement. And he was like, really? For real? That's from the movie. You using that in real life and it's working. I was like, yes. And then me and him, and one of you two, if not both of you, have probably heard this story before. We would come from a party, went to a 24-hour grocery store at like 1:30 in the morning. And I was mowing hardcore with this woman in the grocery store. I had her literally sucking my in the grocery store. That's where she started. Then she came back out and finished in a car. My brother was like 2 or 3 parking spaces away. And he was just looking like, how the hell? And that was the night that he became a believer. And that's when he first suggested that I put it on paper. Because at the time, man, I wasn't thinking about it. I would have never, like, back then, I would have never predicted that I would be like a book author. Because my emphasis when I was young, I wanted to work in the entertainment industry. And but that night, it was in June of 1986. That's what my brother first said. He said, hey, man, if you're getting these type of results, he said, bro, you need to put this on paper, man. And I kind of laughed at like, yeah, whatever. He's like, no, seriously, dude, you need to put this on. And to his credit of persistence, he bugged me for like the next 9 years off and on. He keeps saying, bro, you need to put that on paper. And the first time I did, when I outlined my four modes of what I call my four modes of verbal communication, I put that on paper in October of 1990. And then I fleshed it out more as a pamphlet in spring of 1995. And then my brother gave it to some of his coworkers. And that's when I saw the first that it could work for other guys. Because honestly, at first, I more or less thought it was just fit with my personality. But my brother gave the pamphlet to about 10 guys. About 4 of the 10 guys, they went down. They said, nah, this is too ballsy for me. I can't pull this off. But the other 6 used it, and all of them improved their success with women to some degree. And they told my brother, they said, hey, man, tell your brother, man, this is gold, man. This is gold.
And that is like true because I was one of them dudes, prior to getting married. But right now we got to go, of course, take a quick break and everything so we can go ahead and get reloaded so we go into the second segment.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. First of all, I mean, this is going by so fast. We got a whole lot more to uncover, but we'll do that in the second half. Second half, we'll delve more into the book. We'll delve into something that you just talked about, which was your original motivation and the aspirations that you wanted to be into, a comedian and that sort of thing. And there was a part in your book that I really want to cover that I thought was a gem. So, folks, fans, stay tuned for that. We're going to be right back. This is the CO2 Carbon Ops Rawcast. Stick with us. All right, thank you again, everybody, for sticking with us once again. This is the CO2 Carbon Ops Rawcast, and we are back with our special guest, ARC, Alan Roger Currie. And Alan, when we went to break, we were talking and kind of delved into a part of your book that I just thought was pretty interesting. So you talked about a situation with 2 girls at a gym that you and I had to bring it up because I'm like, this is good for guys to like get, how this evolves. But you pretty much had the deal sealed with these 2 girls on a 3-way. And you talked about your aspirations for comedy. You had them rolling to the point of kind of wanting to change their mind on the scenario.
Talk about this misfire.
Yeah, let's talk about that because
he's still mad about that shit. You can tell.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
But I got a couple of buddies who knew about it firsthand, and that's what they always tease me about. Because I got these 2 buddies, they bring it up an average of at least once every 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
They bring it up. They was living in LA with me. And they would always say, when Reach just said, they say, man, see, admit it, you still pissed off about it. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. For the listeners, here's what happened. Well, it started, I'm a reference. I spoke in London in November 2010 for this weekend conference for men. And one of the questions that was posed to me from a guy from the audience, he said, Alan, I noticed you don't talk much in your books about humor. He says, aren't you overlooking one of the most, biggest, he said, because every article I read by women who give dating advice, they always say, you got to be funny. Women love funny men. Mm-hmm. And I kind of waved my hand like, yeah. And everybody in the audience at the time in London was like, why did Alan just have that reaction? Yeah. And then I went on and told him, I said, I'm going to tell you guys something that most people are not going to tell you. I said, it's okay to be what I like to call casually witty with a woman. Casually witty. That's fine. No problem. But just outright funny, as if you doing like a stand-up routine, I told the guys, I said, don't ever do that shit. Don't ever. I said, humor is highly over, particularly if your objective is casual sex. And I said, if you're talking about for your wife or something, go ahead. But I said, for casual sex, humor is overrated. And then I went on to tell this story that I'm about to tell now. I was working at LA Fitness in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard. If you're familiar with LA, it's the one that's near Wilshire and Fairfax. And so these two good-looking Caucasian women coming in, and I had minor chit-chat with them, I think at least once before. But they got on this stepper, and they was on this stepper for a long time. So I started teasing. I'm like, damn, y'all going down that doggone stepper. What's up with you guys on that dog? Y'all, we got other workout machines other than the stepper. So they got off, and they were like, Alan, I think you know why we're on this stepper. Stepper, among other things, it helps firm your butt and give you a rounder butt. And we want a butt like black women. I said, really? They said, oh yeah, that's our goal. We want to get a butt like black women. So they both had on these tight leggings. I said, so turn around. And so they turned around, they had their backs to me. And I just boldly start just grabbing their asses. Now, if they would have had an adverse reaction, I might have been in trouble. They could have went to management and said, this guy was harassing us. He grabbed, but I don't know why. But I just boldly just start squeezing on their asses. And I said, damn, both of y'all got some soft asses. And they just start giggling. So when I saw they were receptive to my boldness and grabbing their ass, I started whispering in each of their ears. I said, you know what? I want to bend you over and just f the shit out of you. I want to just you slap this ass, pull your hair. And they was like, ooh, you nasty. Oh, yeah. Then I was going back and forth. I talked dirty to one, then I talked dirty to the other one. Yeah. And I could see they was really feeling it. So I said, you know what? Us three, we need to have some fun together in a couple of days. I think it was on a Thursday night. I suggested that on that Saturday, I said, Saturday, we need to all get together and just have fun in the bedroom. How's that sound? They was like, we consider ourselves experimental and adventurous. So yeah, we're game. Let's do it. I said, okay, let's do it. And I said, give me the number. So they wrote down a number. I said, I'll give y'all a call. And then we'll make it happen on Saturday. They said, okay. So they walked out. I went back to my desk, and the way this LA Fitness, again, people familiar with it will know what I'm talking about. It's just these big windows. A lot of, certain buildings in different major cities have those type of buildings. It's just a whole bunch of big windows. So you can see out in what's going on the street, everything. So I see them. There was a parking lot that was adjacent to the building, but they didn't go into the parking lot because I assumed they had driven there. They walked this long sidewalk to the street, and they was just standing on Wilshire Boulevard on the street. So I was busy doing this and that, and I kept looking out like, why are they just standing there?
Trying to get chose.
And then I was just, about 3 or 4 times, I found myself looking out like, damn, why are they just standing there? So curiosity, in retrospect, for the worst, got the best of me. So I said, I'm going to go out and see what's going on. So I went out and I said, what's up, ladies? You couldn't be waiting for the bus because I've already seen like 2 or 3 buses pass you by. They said, oh, no, we got a cousin of ours. She's supposed to pick us up, but she's late. Something happened. She's late. So we're waiting for her to pick us up. Now, pause right there. I shouldn't have went out there in the first place. Yeah. But if there was one moment after I went out where I just went back in, it was this moment. Once they said, hey, we waiting for our cousin, I should have said, okay, ladies, take it easy. I'll see you on Saturday. For whatever reason.
Kept going.
Alan, they was waiting on your ass to give them a ride home.
And I was like, so, how long you been members of the club? And, a bunch of small talk. One of the things I
you was fluffing.
Small talk. I spent at least 5 minutes of start small talking with them. And then that kind of led into me cracking jokes. And I just, sometimes once I get in a humor mode, I get into a zone.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go in detail about, but this relates to when I first started adopting the no free attention. I had this friend named Anthony. I talk about in the same chapter that I talk about these two women. And see, he used to witness me doing that at work in Chicago. When we worked together in Chicago, this is back in the late 80s, in 1988. I used to do the same thing. Sometimes I get to talking to my female coworkers. Next thing you know, it was essentially like I was doing like a stand-up comedy performance. Yeah. Which I did win a stand-up comedy contest in Chicago in 1989, but that's another story for another day. So now back to these women. Yeah, I just started just cracking different jokes and telling humorous stories. And you can say on the positive end, I had them just rolling. I mean, it was like stomach hurt type fun. They was just cracking. They was like, oh my God, stop. Oh my God, you're so funny. Oh my God, you're so funny. So they just laughed their ass off. So after I got finished doing, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes worth of comedy, I said, so I'll see you on Saturday. And then all of a sudden, the first thing they did, they was kind of looked at each other. And that's when my mind said, uh-oh, something's wrong. And then one said, well, we don't mind you coming over on Saturday, but we don't want to have sex anymore. I was like, what? They said, we want you to make us laugh because you're so funny. We want you to be our personal comedian and just make us laugh. I mean, you're like hilarious. Damn. Yeah, we don't want to have sex anymore. That's like, let's consider that off the table now. Man, y'all would have been cracking it. The how quick my face changed was almost humorous. I bet. I went from this lighthearted demeanor to I was almost like scowling. I was basically like,
you went into mode 4?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I basically went to mode 4. I was like, are you bitches serious? Are you really serious right now? They was like, oh yeah, we don't want to have sex. We just want you to come over and make us laugh. I said, I ain't coming over y'all place to make you fucking laugh. Are you nuts? What's wrong with you? What that look like? Yeah. It's like, you don't have to get out angry. You're just making us laugh, and that's why we want you to come over now. But I mean, you seem like you got an attitude. Let's just cancel it. Let's just not have you come over now. I said, yeah, that would be best. Yeah. Laugh.
No, but okay, stop right there because let me just say really quick, because a lot of guys fall into that, and that's why I thought that was the gem of the book, is because we're always told that women like funny guys. They like guys that can make them laugh. And, you know, maybe to a degree, if you're like marrying somebody or if you're in a long-term relationship, that may be true. But for gaming, for that specific scenario, I thought that was bars, because it's like, yeah, they might think you're funny, and you in a club talking to somebody and you got them rolling. You think you're in the game, and then the night ends and you're like, what the fuck happened?
You entertained them first, which was a no-no. Like, damn.
Well, you know, there's one reason I leave why that happens. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I remember reading where somebody said for a lot of women, laughter is like, you figuratively speaking, like a first cousin to an orgasm. So a lot of women feel like, well, if you made them laugh, you done already made them come.
I ain't never heard no shit like that.
Wow.
And but I remember, if there's one guy who kind of was a warning for me, there used to be this comedian named Franklin Ajayi. You guys can Google him. He was an old school black comedian. And he was doing this interview, and I remember they asked him about groupies. And he kind of chuckled, and he said, no, I don't have no groupies. He said, matter of fact, most comedians, he said, with the positive exception, maybe like Eddie Murphy and named one or two other people. He said, but most comedians don't really have groupies compared to other, celebrities. And the interviewer was like, really? It's like, nah. He said, see, that's where a lot of guys got it twisted, because I've known guys to become stand-up thinking they're going to have all these, groupies lusting after them. He said it don't happen like that. Humor don't have that type of lust effect on women, like, say, being a singer or a musician or a professional athlete. Wow. And I interviewed a guy on Blog Talk Radio. He said the same thing. He said he was this white guy, and he had hung out with all these top name comedians. And he said during that interview, he said, man, I used to think comedians got laid, but he said after hanging out with them in Hollywood, he said, man, comedians don't really get laid.
That's why they always caught up in scandals and shit. Like they always getting into like something with like a chick, like a date rape or like an harassment thing. I noticed that.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So humor, it's again, as Max said, for long-term relationships, I don't discount it as much. I think humor is still relevant for like marriage, long-term romantic relationship. But if nothing else, for casual sex, play down that humor man. Yeah. That humor though is not gonna really benefit you at all.
All right, let's get deeper, real deeper, because this was interesting. I don't recall this being in the first version of the book, but you broke down your own personal analysis of true love. Now, I don't know if this was inspired for the fact, that you are, not only married, you're a dad now, like we are, so break that down, for the people. So what is true love for you?
Yeah, I have a very what someone call overly simplistic description of love. I put it kind of like in a mathematical formula. I basically say true love is lust plus friendship. Lust plus friendship. I feel like in any relationship with a woman, if there's too much lust present, which is, a good thing for the sexual component of a relationship, that's what you need. You need that lust factor. But if that's all you have and you don't really have any type of profound friendship, then that will never work for a marriage or a long-term romantic relationship. That would just essentially end up being a glorified buddy relationship, if I can use profanity.
Yeah. You've been using profanity since we started. Rawcast. I was the first one to use it. But this is the Rawcast. Y'all already know how we get down. Quit bullshit. So, go ahead.
On the flip side, if you were a woman and say the non-sexual component of your relationship is really good, meaning that the friendship, you guys got great chemistry as friends, trustworthy, loyal friends to each other, that can be good, particularly when you become senior citizens. But if there ain't no lust factor, one of the two people in a relationship, if not both of the people, inevitably is going to be, at minimum, tempted to cheat, if not go ahead and cheat. So I say you need both to make it work. You gotta have that lust factor for the sexual component, and you gotta have that friendship factor for the non-sexual component. And that's my general definition of love.
That's dope. Yeah, I was, because we were talking about, this is great, gems, and you've written a lot of great material for people to follow, for fellas to follow. But a lot of it is, of course, in the dating mode. And, now that you're married, you got a son, both of us are married and we got kids. And it's like, I'm just wondering, do you anticipate what's the next step? Could there be another book that talks about mode one in the marriage game? You know what I mean?
That's already been requested.
Yeah, because sex, sex be stopping when you get married, especially after the baby and everything. Oh, you probably got it going on and everything. But is there a mode marriage version coming?
I'm entertaining the thought. Yeah, I've had a few guys already. Because believe it or not, I do have, not large, but I got a small percentage of Patreon subscribers and clients who are actually married that own all my books and I do consultations with from time to time. So marriage is I love it. I'll just say that. I love it without getting long-winded. I love it. A lot of people, I think, Reach, you might have, or both of y'all might have paid attention to that interview that Bernard Riley did with me, where one interesting thing I've received as far as a criticism, some people think me getting married is contradictory to my book, The Beta Male Revolution. A lot of people looked at that book as an anti-marriage book.
I don't see how. They didn't read that.
In my interview with Bernard, I said, no, there's nowhere in that book.
Yeah, not even close.
I'm anti-marriage. But yeah, I love it. I definitely, and I love being a father, man. It's just the greatest. You guys know because you fathers. And,
did you have a question?
Go for it.
Oh, get deeper. The young ones versus the OGs in the manosphere, or the black manosphere, we'll just say. It's almost like a civil war, as you may think. You get a whole lot of contention yourself because you're an elder in the game. you're married in the game, but you constantly keep hearing the young G's talk about like, yo, these women are different. You can't be direct, with these women in today's dating atmosphere right now. You pulled somebody mad younger than you. So what's the divide? What's going on over here with the young ones, versus what's still continuing with the OGs in the dating game?
Well, I did a whole video of this on my YouTube channel, man. I think, and I don't necessarily want to be guilty of generalizing, but I will generalize a little bit. There's a lot of black men in the black manosphere, not all, but definitely a sizable percentage of them, either by their own admission or just by my perception and observation, they grew up without any relationship with their father. A lot of them don't even know who their biological father is. Like, I've had at least a handful that have straightforwardly admitted that to me. They like, well, I was going to throw out some names, but I won't. But I've had some guys who are fairly well known in the black manosphere that have told me straight up, they're like, Alan, you've admitted many times that you had a great relationship with your father growing up. I don't even know who the my father is. My father ain't never, so there's a couple guys, they told me, they said, that's one of the reasons why I have a certain degree of like bitterness and resentment towards older black men, because they remind me of my father who was absent in my life. He ain't never helped me. So I'm like, fuck all them old niggas. Yeah. Fuck all of them. Yeah. And I think that's what's going on with a lot of these guys, man. Because generally, man, if you grow up with a great relationship with your father, or if not, say, your biological father, even in some cases your stepfather had a good relationship with, you're going to have a certain level of respect for older men. But a lot of these guys don't have that. But as far as the whole direct thing, here's what's funny about that. I just explained this the other day on somebody's live stream. There's some guys in the manosphere, young guys, because I'm older and I was direct with women, say in the 80s and 90s, they think all men were direct with women in the 80s and 90s. So they look at direct as being old school game and like indirect almost as being represented new school game, when in reality it's just the opposite. See, in the 80s and 90s, I was an anomaly. Most people in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were indirect. I would say probably 97, 98% of guys were indirect with women. Yeah. And that's why I had a guy tell me, I did a book signing one time in Ventura County in California, and this guy, I never forget, this guy said, Alan, I like your book, but my criticism of it, he said, it's way ahead of its time. And I said, really? He said, yeah, this book is at least 10 to 15. This was in 2006. He said this. He said, your book at minimum is at least 10 to 15 years ahead of his. He said, society right now ain't ready for this type of directness. But he said, I believe as we move forward, it will be. And interesting enough, Rollo Tomasi, the author of The Rational Male, echoed that just last year. And I mentioned on my YouTube channel. He said the way feminism is the way it is today, and the whole Me Too and different other similar factors, he said Alan Roger Currie's Mo 1 is probably going to be the best approach over the next 10, 15, 20 years. He said, moving forward, I can't think of any method of interacting with women that is more applicable than Alan Roger Currie's Mo 1 approach. So it just, again, it cracks me up when I hear guys say, like, I'll tell one by name is Alpha Male Strategies. He said that he was one of the first guys came out and said, he said, man, that direct stuff that Alan Roger Currie does, man, that shit worked in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But man, you can't use that stuff today. No, today is when you need to be direct.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of girls, like, it seems like they can't really stand men right now, is because somewhere along the line we got conditioned that the only way for us to really get a chick is to lie to them and deceive them. And that's why I always thought, like, it's so conflicting, because what you're talking about, some people just want to dismiss like that's old talk or it's whatever, but you're really trying to gain people up on like, honesty. Really, just being upfront with somebody is actually going to cause you less headaches in the long run, because you ain't got to like try to remember none of this shit. You ain't got to back up none of that. It's just, this is what I want. You either with it or you're not.
No, let me piggyback on that. I don't know if you follow social media a lot. Basically, when he just said that most dudes are now being direct, on social media, girls are actually now recording themselves on TikTok, Snapchat, the gram, talking about how can I get just a guy just to like call me cute all day, blow my phone up, take me out on a date? Can we like Netflix without the chill? Now these girls are now admitting like basically the manipulative time wasters have now exposed their own damn selves on social media. They want men to basically pander to them now.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah, because since you brought that up, see, that's the beauty of Mode 1, man, that a lot of guys don't get. A lot of guys focus on just the getting laid. And you can't get laid being Mode 1, no doubt. But for me, at minimum, what was equally important, if not more important, when I started being Mode 1 is I use Mode 1 to quickly and effectively identify the manipulative time wasters, man. Because for the average guy, man, that's the highest percentage of women you're going to cross paths with. Is so many women out here, man, that are manipulative time wasters. They just want you to flatter them, entertain them, be an emotionally empathetic listening ear, spend money on them, treat them to meals, but they ain't trying to give up nothing. They ain't trying to give them no poo nanny. And so if you're not Mode 1, man, you either not going to be able to detect, in worst case scenario, you're not going to be able to detect them at all until it's way, way, way too late, or at minimum, it's going to delay the process of you identifying a manipulative time waster.
There are so many gems in your book, and we almost run out of time, so I gotta like talk about this and give you a minute to talk about this, because you talked about Mode 3 targets and like how like, you know, they seem to fall prey to, you know, the gold diggers of the world. And I just wanted to talk about like, what is it you think that makes guys think that, because it seems like that's like a repetitive thing, man. A lot of guys feel like, you know, if I showered him with all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? Or if I got all of my pieces right, that like, I'm just going to catch, like I deserve to catch this type of woman. Like, where do you think that mentality even began? Because it seems like it's so backwards from what the actual truth is with like what these girls really are attracted to.
From mom.
Maybe. It relates to what we were just talking, what I was just talking about, as far as, you know, we're talking about basically old school versus new school, OGs versus young Gs. See, back in the day, most men were brainwashed to believe that the number one key to attracting women was to have a high degree of career success and financial success and expensive material.
Money stats,
I would say the height of that, if I had to pick a decade, was probably the 80s. That was really a big thing in the 80s, that you gotta have a lot of money, you gotta have, you know, expensive, nice car. And what I realized early on, and I'm not necessarily proud of this, but everybody knows it by now in the manosphere. You know, when I was younger, between roughly the ages of 17 and 37, I used to have sex quite a bit with women who were married, engaged to be married, or had a boyfriend. And a good number of those women had husbands, fiancés, or boyfriends who were making way more money than me. The most standout was this white woman I used to have sex with. She was a graduate student at UCLA. Her husband was essentially a millionaire. He was a millionaire. Wow. And I was making at the time like about 30 grand a year. I was fucking this woman anytime I wanted to. And she was engaged to a white millionaire. Wow. He was the kicker. She even ended up telling me, man, during one of the times, she said, you want to know the truth, Alan? She said, I'm not even really sexually attracted to white men. Wow. I was like, what? Wow. And you get me to marry? And you're not even... She said, no, sexually, she said, I like black men. I think black men are much more masculine and sexy, but here was the funny word. You can say she gave me, I'm known for insert dog face. Yeah, she gave me a dog face because I said, I was all naive. And I said, wait a minute. If you're not sexually attracted to him, like, then why the heck are you marrying him? Right. And she just gave me a look, basically like, because she, at the time, she was driving a Porsche 911 that he had bought for her. She had all these expensive material possessions. Basically, she was like, what you think? Why you think I'm marrying this dude? He takes care of me financially. He buys me anything I want him to buy me. Why wouldn't? And she went on to say, she said, I get a lot of girlfriends like that. They're not in marriages with women, with men that they find genuinely attractive or sexually appealing, but those guys are taking care of them with this. But so all that to say that, man, a lot of guys still buy into this belief because they see it, because that's promoted in a lot of movies, TV shows, and by celebrities and stuff, that the more things you have, the more women, but it's all BS, man. That's BS, man. Material possessions, here's the thing I always say to guys. I say, guys, have you ever seen a video of a woman with just stacks of cash on her bed and she was just playing with her, looking at those stacks of cash? Have you ever seen that? And they always say, no, I ain't never seen that. I say, exactly. Money ain't got shit to do with her biological impulses and her biological urges. That's bullshit. So,
man, damn it, I hate this part.
This sucks, man. Like,
I hate this part.
We have to, man, have you back at some point, man. ARC, we really appreciate you being on the show. This has been gems, and like I say, if there's anything, first of all, let's plug your book first of all, and then your channel. Where can they find you?
Yeah.
All my books can be found on either one or two places. Amazon.com. Just put in AlanRogerCurrie, Alan Roger Currie, and you'll find all my books. Then Amazon specifically has a division for audiobooks called Audible.com. That's where you can find all 4 of my audiobooks is on Audible.com. And one other place is my main website, which is Direct Approach Dating, as one word, directapproachdating.com/books.
Okay.
And but it just links you to Amazon and Audible. And so that's my main website is Direct Approach Dating. For BDSM and polyamory advice, which I do from time to time, that's a different website. It's called mode1.net/training. And yeah, man, I just want to say, man, you guys got a good thing going on here. Continued success to you, man. Thank you for having me. You guys are some intelligent, classy brothers. I've enjoyed this discussion.
Salute, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, how are we going to find you, man?
Man, first of all, thank you everybody for watching this special edition of the Winners Lounge. I'm your boy, Diggy Jones. You can find me on Diggy City on IG. What about you?
Of course, y'all know y'all can find me on the gram. Good evening, Mr. Black. Find me on Twitter. Evening, Mr. Black. And also make sure you guys follow the Instagram show for CO2 Rawcast and follow us on Facebook, Carbon Ops Rawcast. Hit our wall. And I just want to take the time to apologize for me cussing and shit in the beginning of the program, but it's ARC on the damn show. So I'm sorry that you had to hear all that bullshit that I was talking earlier. Sorry,
not sorry.
It's the Rawcast. You should have known about it, man.
Man, we appreciate everybody for tuning into this special edition. And again, go follow ARC on his YouTube page. Get all of his books and you'll be better for it. Trust me. The force is strong with this one.
You're on Instagram too.
Yeah, I honestly though, I never play because I know a lot of people.
It's really his son's Instagram. That's all he do is put his son up there.
Active on that. The only thing I really upload to Instagram is either photos or videos of my son.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
But as far as like dating coaching advice, I don't really do like dating coaching videos on Instagram.
Okay.
So that's more family oriented.
Yeah, so go like the photos of his baby boy, man.
Yeah, but don't be stalking though.
Don't stalk. Don't stalk. All right, man.
All right, folks. Thank again. We'll talk to you guys next time. Once again, this is the CO2 Carbon Ops Rawcast. We'll see you next time. Peace. Flip side. We out.